Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. We're here with another episode of Alice in Borderland, episode 4. Last time on Alice in Borderland, Seven of Hearts. A gut-wrenching episode in the last one. And one of the things I appreciate about the series so far is that, it encourages the audience to think of varying ways, that the game could actually have been approached from. In my last reaction, in the discussion at the end, I asked for your views on how you felt they could have won that game without three persons actually dying. Um, we got to see a bit more of their friendship, things that they've done in the past to lift each other up. And at the end of the day, it came down to who deserved to live the most, and I suppose his friends felt he deserved that the most, and that's debatable because in my mind, Arisu isn't really, he doesn't, he hadn't done much with his life. I guess we can say he had the most potential, but that is also debatable because, I mean, he came from an elite family, so more essentially he had a leg up more than his two friends. So I don't know if we can categorize that as potential. He certainly seems to have, um, in terms of problem solving, he seems to be a bit more intellectual than his friends are, but um, they seem to be more hardworking than he is. And I mean, as much as if we ask anyone to list of the three who were more capable, Shota would probably be at the bottom for a lot of people. But having rewatched the last episode, um, and seeing where he's knowledgeable about electrical engineering, and he had a good job actually, and what Shota lacked was just the confidence, and that came about, that lack of confidence came about because of his upbringing, and who his mother was, being a part of a cult and all of that. So the argument can be made that had Shota had a different, a family of higher standing in the way that Arisu did, he would have been the best choice in this particular instance. But of course, that's not the case. So we can only work with the information that we have before us. So his friends felt that was the best choice, and we can only hope that he doesn't squander that, their sacrifice. Even I, at a certain point, felt, thought, Shota may have given in to the woman who was in their group, and turned on his friends. For a moment, it seemed like he would have, but he didn't in the end. And Shota, he held her down to save his friends. That makes him a hero. All right, that makes him a hero in my book. Um, Karube, of course, we learned he was going to propose to the girl from the bar, despite the fact that she's his boss's girlfriend. But he had something to live for, and Arisu was trying to think of something, but I don't think he could because he didn't have anything, because he didn't put in the work like his friends did. Um, but here we are. We can only hope that he makes the most of it. And for the next game, I said in the last reaction that for the future games, I hope he changes somewhat, not become a hardened asshole or anything like that, but stop being so reckless. In trying to save every person, because I don't think you can win this game that way. The manga may be written that way. And as I've said many times, we all know, as people who read manga and watch anime, we know there's a bit of plot armor in there, so the story goes, favors the protagonist. Um, so he may win regardless, by just continuing to be himself and all that. But we know realistically, you can't save everyone. And as I said, I hope we come across a character. I hope he faces a character that challenges him on that. It's fine when the protagonists are written that way. I don't love it when they're written that way. These characters that are not flawed in any way, or the power of friendship always comes out on top and all of that. It's great in animation, but it's not grounded in reality. So I do hope one of the ways that they can make that work, at least for me personally, is if he faces someone who challenges him on that, someone who's who's effective in the games but does the exact opposite of what he does. That I think would work really well. And as a protagonist, I fully expect that his convictions will win out. But it would be good to see that struggle between the two. So hopefully we get something like that. So episode 4, guys. Let's check it out. Survival of the fittest. Are we picking up immediately after the last game? I mean, clearly some time has passed. He's outside and all, but... Come on. Don't let your friend's sacrifice be in vain. Oh, I get it. I mean, his friends are gone, and I understand he's saddened by it, but they wanted him to live. That's why they chose that. Still there. Yeah, you can't survive for too long without food, and even less without water. So. I'm with you. Let's hope we don't, mine them, out of existence for resources. Why all the journalists? It doesn't sound too safe.
心配するな。誰の汗か知らないが、お父さんは嘘はつかない。
どこに行くの？
山だよ。
So they were accusing him of being staging the entire climb. Why would he just do that? Oh, he disappeared. Wow. Suicide. Was it suicide? If it wasn't staged, I don't see why he would do that. But it's sad. So we've gotten some insight into her background. I don't know a whole lot about mountain climbing as to how realistic the non-oxygen climb actually is. So I'll have to look into that. But that would be interesting. I'd never attempt it. I'll leave that to the professionals. Come on, eat up. How did she drag him all the way here, though? I mean, if he wants to die, I'm sure there are easier ways to do it than starving to death. That's one of the worst ways you can go. I don't think you had a say in the matter, though. Can't beat yourself up forever.
私も死にたいって思った時があった。
She experienced that loss in the real world though, so I mean, not that she had much more control over that than he does, and perhaps that's the contrast there, you know. He didn't have any choice here, but it was out of her hands as well. Sometimes you just don't, you know, there's nothing you can do. But yet, she's still here fighting to get back to it, even though there's not really anyone waiting for her back at home. Okay. At least you ate it. Progress.
準備して。
If you're gonna be staying here, you gotta make your own. Okay. Contribute.
鬼ごっこ。命がけでみんなを助けようとした。
I don't know if it was so much at the cost of his life. It ensured his survival.
叫んでくれなかったら私死んでたよ。借り返させて。
Can't catch a break. But I stand by what I said in the last episode. I think it's best to not go to the same, don't even be in the same area as someone you remotely care about. Alright? The worst case is when you end up in a hard game with someone that you care about, it means one of you has to die. So go to separate areas, separate arenas. I'm not sure if that's how the rules work, depending on who's monitoring them, but alright. What haven't we seen? We've seen spades, hearts, and diamonds. We haven't seen clubs, right? If I'm not mistaken. That's the team. They haven't repeated any suits so far, so this has to be a clubs game, I'm guessing. Alright, 3 new faces. Okay. 6 phones though. That's 5. There's 1 person missing. Assuming they haven't already taken out their phone. No, they already have. So where are the rest?
あなたたちは
この3人で4つクリアした。
Okay. Sticking together is not a great idea. Does it? Until you get to a hearts game. Yes, it's just a 5. Alright. Clubs. 4. It's not that bad. It's weird, the rules of the games, even though they're denoted by specific requirements, they seem to overlap a bit. You know, the space game felt a bit like it was a clubs game because it required more than 1 person to solve. And here, which is supposed to be a group game, it's long distance, according to the description. Which gives me the impression that it's a physical game. So, yeah, there's some overlap with the game rules. He definitely cannot run. Grab the bus. No gas.
てってくれ。
They might not have a choice. They can't carry you.
タクマ
Not with a time limit.
犠牲になって死にますとか言ってるわけじゃねえぜ。
そんなことできるわけないだろ。
やまねえ。お前はクリアしなきゃダメだ。嫁さんにまた会うんだろ。お腹にいる赤ちゃんにも。
I don't know. These games always have some twist to them. I don't think it's as straightforward as they think. Games have never been straightforward as just get to this point and that's it. There's always some twist. I would check all these cars that were passing. I don't know. I'm not sure I would drink that. Yeah,
飲めるのこれ。
Is anyone gonna sacrifice himself and meet a tester? I wouldn't risk it. I'm sorry. Oh, okay. At least she was prepared.
ありがとう。
I would have wondered why they didn't, but no one was expecting to have to run for a game. Arisu. I mean, I can't blame her. I mean, normally she'd have just brought the water for herself and teamwork. All right, go teamwork. I don't know if it's the best decision because it means less for the rest of you, but I feel this idea that Arisu has that he can save everyone is just gonna get someone killed. Another tagger.
何もいねえぞ。
いや、
They didn't say whether there would be obstacles in the way. Okay then. Run! 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 A goddamn panther. The CGI on this actually looks pretty damn good. It's actually pretty good. Is there only one though? I mean, it could take cover in one of the cars, but they still have to get to a destination, so that's not really an option. Flare, something. They need to stop it. There's no way they'll be able to outrun it. Are you guys watching there? I'm sorry, but he's done for. Keep moving. He's injured. Ah.
あいつらと一緒にいたのは1週間ぐらいだけど、昔からずっと友達だったような気がする。
Yeah, I guess Arisu knows how you feel.
二人のこと嫁さんに話さなきゃ。
Good. That's what I want to hear. Why are we stopping? Why are we stopping, guys? The gas
こう
in
いう
it.
のは動くんだよな。
Ah,
IC チップが入
I
って
should
ない
have
よ
told
う
him
な
that they
も
would
の
still work here.
そうか電子回路だ
What's the plan? I mean, to go back that far or use the
デ
motorcycle?
ィーゼルエンジンの珍しいバイクだって言ってたよなああつまりこのバイクはガソリンじゃなくて軽油で走るあのバスも軽油
まさか
So are we using the bike to move forward or are we going back?
この燃料を持っていけば
Because that's a
バ
long
スが
way
動いて
back.
彼は助かる
He's doing it again.
先は
I
彼
mean, I
たちに
hope he's
先にゴールしてく
successful,
れ
but
俺は後で追いかけるバスが動けば一瞬だ誰かを見殺しにして生き残るのはもうなしだ
hmm.
ゴールかここであいつらのこともっと
There's nowhere else to go there, so get back for him. I thought he said he was gonna try to figure a way out. I guess he was just reserved to die there. What's happening? I think you guys should be trying to figure out what you're supposed to do here.
何今の
What was that?
なんだ
Uh-oh. Water. Yep, run guys. Run, 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 run. This is a physical game. How is it not a physical game? This is definitely spades. Okay, realistically, there's no way they're outrunning that on foot. You know, they're already dead. You don't have a choice. Stop and you die. He's gone. He's done for. Get in one of the cars, didn't they? They were able to open some of the car doors before when they were fighting the Panthers. So get in one of the cars. Oh, okay. Come on, don't let her die. She's one of the very few characters that I like so far. Well, what was the objective here of this game, though? It says distance, but I don't get it. Are you supposed to run to the end and then back to the bus at the very beginning for safety? That can't be it.
大丈夫
Oh, they made it. Ironically, the one that's injured. I mean, I don't know. I don't know that he's gonna survive without his two friends for the next game. Unless he's a part of the team now, our team. Go.
ちゃんと最初から書いてあったんだ
The counter.
ここがゴールだってね
I thought it was directing them that
じ
way.
ゃあ数字は何だったの
ゴールまでの距離ゼロでよかったんだ
Oh, okay. So what was the objective to get to the goal when they were if they were already at the goal out there?
まだ生きてたらどこかで会いましょう。
I feel like this is goodbye for him. I think this is goodbye for him. But Arisu should have enough days left. He won 7 of hearts, so he would have gotten 7 added to his visa. And his visa hadn't expired, wasn't expiring at the point when he joined that game. He just did it for Shota. So he should have some days. He should be good. Oh, okay. They're finally moving. Which answers one of my questions before about whether they had to stay in one location to participate in a specific game, or they could just move and just join the nearest arena.
本当に自転車乗れないの？
習わなかった。
But you can climb? I can climb mountains, but didn't learn how to ride a bicycle. Alright, episode 4 of Alice in Borderland. An interesting episode. We spent for the most part, the better half of this episode just focusing on Arisu and his dealing with the death of his friends. And even the game itself was something of a reflection of that, with him meeting someone who just lost his 2 friends. So it was drawing sort of a contrast between the 2 characters and what they actually had to deal with and how they dealt with it. The sense of loneliness that he's left with, knowing that he survived because they had to die, it's something that he's gonna have to come to terms with. It's not gonna happen overnight, but at the same time, he can't let their sacrifice be in vain, so he still has to push on and move forward, as this guy at the end here does. Although he's injured, I'm not sure it's a smart move for him to go on his own. I don't see that injury healing in this was 4 clubs. If you assuming that his visa wasn't about to expire, you'd only have gotten 4 days, and that's not enough time for him to get back on his feet. So it would have been smart to stay with them. Although I will keep pointing this out. I think I said it in the last episode, I'll say it again. For the in anticipation of a Hearts game, and that's assuming that it follows a cycle and they don't repeat suits one after another, so you won't get 2 diamonds or 2 clubs, etc. The people that you are close with, if you're anticipating a Hearts game to come next, do not be in the same game as those individuals. That seems to be one of the clear solutions to at least one of the games in this world. If you've already played 3 of the 4 suits and you're anticipating a Hearts game, go separate directions with the people in your group. That way, whatever arena you end up with, it won't be to the detriment of you or your friends. And I thought that could, that's the best approach to Hearts, because whoever is monitoring you will know. There's no way around it otherwise. So he's traveling with the girl now means if they end up in a Hearts game, he will have no choice unless he figures something out. I proposed in the last episode that there was a way to get out of that Hearts game, and I'm curious to know what your thoughts are on my suggestions there, or if you have any suggestions on how they could have solved that game as well. We'll try to make that a regular thing in terms of solving these games without falling to the game master's rules. And this episode in particular, this game in particular, and again, the theme of the games keep overlapping, because this was very much a spades game. Didn't feel like it was a clubs game at all. So as to solving this game, I don't see, I'm thinking about it, but I don't see a way that they could have. I suppose they could have solved this without anyone dying, but that would require them to have figured out, what the goal of the game master was, which would make it a diamonds game and not so much a clubs game. This is more about wit, and so there is some overlap with what the theme of the games actually are. So this felt definitely more like a diamonds game, because there's clearly a deception there with where the goal is supposed to be. and I'm a bit unclear as to what the expectation was as well. He told them to reach the goal, but they were already at the goal, you know. So there's a bit of, you know, deception happening there with whoever is, you know, the game master for the game. And so they instinctively ran in the opposite, in the opposite direction, and when they got there, you know, so I don't know, did they need to stay in the bus, or did they need to find gas and take it back to the bus in order to be safe? I don't know, because considering how far they were where the water, you know, where the water actually came in, they would have been fine staying at the starting point, you know. They were probably in more danger driving towards the other members in the game. So had they stayed there, they would have been fine. So they didn't need the gas, I don't think, because there's no point in driving. It's a bit pointless unless they were driving. I don't know. We didn't see how they entered that location that they actually were. Whether it's a closed area and they had to climb down through some, you know, through some stairs or something, or if we didn't see whether it's a closed area or not. So that might affect how they could have done it, but the easiest solution would have clearly been to just stay on the bus. So this was more about deception and just figuring out what clues the game master has left to show you how to solve the game. So it's not a difficult solve, really. Well, you wouldn't have thought to. I don't think anyone would have thought, okay, this is what the goal actually is. But in my mind, I've seen a lot of survival movies, TV shows, and all of that, and it's always important to check the starting point. It's always important to check the starting point, especially when you know you're in a game like this where you know you're going to be manipulated, and you know there's always a twist to actually meeting the objective. But again, our group hasn't been playing for very long. I suspect she has, the climber. She's been there longer than they have, definitely. I don't remember if they actually said how long she's been there. But I think we saw her crossing something out at some point. But I think that was her visa. She was counting down the days or something. I could be wrong, but yeah. So that was more about solving a riddle, you know, essentially, which for me is just more essentially a diamonds game, not a clubs game. But that would have been the solve, and that could have saved everyone. But they were told that it's a clubs game, so there was no way that they would have thought to do that. So it may not even matter, you know, what suits are on the cards, because the game master is just messing with you. They're just messing with you and just making up the rules at this point. So that doesn't require too much thinking to solve that game. It's just a matter of, okay, we need to put everything in perspective, and you know, don't take for granted that the suit is what the game represents. Just assume that, you know, the game could be anything at all, and look around, inspect, you know, and I mean, they had a bit of time in this one to do it, but the time in and of itself was a deception, because it gave them the impression that they needed to get to a particular point in a specific timeline. So you just have to take everything into consideration, and so that was a definitely a fun game. I will say the CG for the Panther looked absolutely great in this. There are a few scenes where it wasn't too great, but it was well done. It's good to see that they're actually putting in the budget, you know, as much as it doesn't need it a whole lot, because much of this I think can be done with practical effects, you know, but at least this tells me when it calls for CG, they will actually, you know, they have the budget to do it and do it well. So this was actually pretty well done. So another fun game. Arisu, and have we gotten her name? She's spoken. I know she's spoken. She said it, or it's been mentioned with her dad. But I guess I need to write it down because I keep forgetting her name. But he has a new teammate now, and you know, they've both saved each other on one occasion or another now, so they can rely on each other. Of course, that worries me because of, you know, a potential Hearts game coming along, especially if they become close later on. What that might mean for a Hearts game, but until then, he has someone that he can rely on, and she does too. And it's interesting to see the contrast between the two of them in terms of where they're coming from. He's lost the people that he cared about here and here in this world, but in the world that she's coming from, she has lost her dad from suicide, and so she doesn't have anything really to go back home to, but she's still fighting to get back home. So I mean, everyone has their own their own thing that they're actually fighting to get back to. We met a few characters who felt the same. One had a wife who was expecting soon in the fall, and he's not there for it. So everyone in this world will have their own agendas, have their own motivations, and that's interesting. Although I mentioned something in jest during the reaction, but as I think about it, I'm wondering whether that could be a reality. If wherever they are in this world, if they do in fact get to the point where they can return to their real world, their real lives, whether, considering how time works differently here, whether in the real world several years might have actually passed while they're stuck here, and yeah, that would be mind-blowing and demented and twisted, but that seems to be the game master's MO, so I would not be surprised, get back home and your family is completely different, all grown or old or something. That would be messed up, but nothing is impossible in this world. So another great episode, guys. Be sure to post down below, let me know what your thoughts are on this episode. Hit like and subscribe, and I will see you guys for the next one.